Now we spent a good amount of time talking about different behavioral trends that consumers are doing, but we also wanted to share some research that we had gathered on the way consumers think, what they believe, what they are prioritizing from a values and cultural standpoint. And this data was gleaned exclusively from a Gartner report, and they actually conduct a number of different surveys in order to gather this information, and have done so over a number of years. And it's one of the fine studies that we love to cite and use and learn from on an annual basis. What we see here are the top 5 values. For the past 14 years, actually, Gartner has monitored and reported on these top values. They gather the ranking that you see here across 93 different values on a 7-point scale that consumers are asked to rate things on, and you can see the names across there, and then the clarification of what's associated with that. So when you say for example, success, the statement that you're asked to rate your kind of agreement on is, I feel better about myself when I succeed or achieve a goal. These top 5 values have been in the top 5 for nearly the entire length of the survey, although their rankings have changed, and you can see that relative to each other over the course of that time. Loyalty regaining the #1 spot over quality in this latest edition, with authenticity falling 2 spots and changing places with success. These are the most commonly agreed upon values, and one thing I did want to stress, and something that Gartner points out as well, is values are not necessarily truths that describe actual consumer behavior. They're often more so aspirational thoughts that people are continuing to wanting to strive towards, and understanding that is an important point. Now, in addition to the top values, we also wanted to share with you some research that shows values that have shown the most change, or in this case, upward change, upward movement over the course of time. This is one of the benefits of doing this type of longitudinal kind of study, where consistently asking the same type of information so that you can trend data, in this case, over a 13-year period of time and see how those values have changed. And you can see that some of the top growing ones, given what we've gone through in certainly the last 3 to 4 years, not surprising to see things like a value of safety, actively seeking ways to keep myself, family, and my friends safe from harm or danger, growing from a 27 rank to the 11th rank, or health. One of my highest priorities is to be physically and mentally healthy and free from illness, and that also grown considerably from a 32 rank back in 2010 to now being the 12th highest rated value among consumers within Gartner's study here. Now, I don't have a slide depicting this, but I did also want to share some of the key falling values with you. The ones that have lost significance with consumers over time. And these include the values of duty, identity, thrift, freedom, and youth. And at least 2 of those, kind of strike me as really strange, or a bit concerning as far as long-term trends go, because the word associate, or the statement association with, say, duty is, I believe it is my duty to fulfill my obligations to family, friends, community, and country. And that particular element dropped from 23 to 40. And then I thought it was obviously a bit surprising that this is a United States-based study, and that the value of freedom which again is associated with the term I need to have freedom to say or do what I want without restrictions, had also dropped from 30 to 49. So some interesting things there. The last trend that I wanted to highlight about the values on the next slide was really that some of the changes in values have begun to stabilize, at least in this last version. But as you can see, the last 2 years have been almost at polar extremes in terms of changes that we've seen. In an average wave, and again, this is something that's been done for a number of years, spikes where you see a particular value go up by 10 or more ranked positions. There were about only 4 in an average wave. Last year there were 16 that saw, so it was a very turbulent kind of period of times in terms of values for the consumers that were measured in that study, and that has transitioned down to just 1, seeing that kind of huge shift, and that we feel like that in some ways is a positive thing, that you're not seeing the kind of turbulence in the way people are changing and thinking about things. I'm going to shift now to the top cultural trends that Gartner had identified for 2024. There are 5 that they call out. I'm going to hone in on 3 of these as I think being a little bit more relevant from a marketing and advertising perspective, and those are the 3 on the left-hand side, but let's go through each of these 5. One of the big cultural trends is consumers are resigned to AI, and I'm going to get a little bit more into that. Another thing is the growing disaster distress. This is both weather and otherwise, but it does have a weather focus, as seemingly one big thing after another has lots of concerns raised among people, and certainly people in the on the East Coast who just saw that recent storm come through can relate to that. Activist right, I'll get into that a little bit more. There is the transgender boy-girl binary kind of trend that is certainly exploded, and then focus enablement. But as I said, not seeing as many applications there, and even a bit of a contradiction or paradox, if you will, between both the center activist right and the boy-girl binary one that we can explore a little bit further here. So when you say resigned to AI, the values are a part of that. Is like, it's just that it's going to be the reality, whether and Gwen explored some of that in the research that she shared. Their consumers are concerned about things, but for the most part, consumers are resigned to the fact that it's coming. And one of the quotes within the document on this, as it related to being resigned to AI, is it was, quote, "It's here to stay. It's coming faster around every turn. It's either get used to it and get comfortable with it, or literally get left behind," was the feeling of one millennial respondent on that. That being said, there are various levels of comfortability and mindsets as it relates to that. And the fact that that is the case has implications for marketers. It is very key to understand that consumers are not monolithic when they come to their views of AI, and understanding the mindsets of your own customers as it relates to this, and that there can be a diversity of views on that are important. There may not be just one approach that's going to work across all of those things. But at the same time, we don't want to be AI ambivalent about things as well. Disaster distress values there. Obviously, it comes to the point of that safety and security, and safety being one of the top ones. People have noticed that things have gotten a little crazier, especially when it comes to weather, but I would suggest that the disaster distress extends beyond that, as we've dealt with health pandemic disasters, we've dealt with economic challenges, we now are dealing with multiple kind of wars across the world on that front. So there's a lot of distress and stress and concern about all of those big events, and it leaves consumers, as kind of summarized here, physically, emotionally, and financially even unsure about things. From a marketing kind of standpoint, you know, the recommendation here in terms of strategic approaches to dealing with this is really to make sure that you can offer the mental and emotional help that through empathy. You may not be able to directly help things, but empathizing with the way consumers are, what consumers are dealing with, the world in which they're operating, goes a long way to helping with a brand's performance in that. So that consumers feel a little bit more sense of control, and that your brand is like contributing to helping with that. The final cultural trend is activist right. I'd like to think about this beyond that, although I will, you know, kind of go through what Gartner had identified here. And basically what this, as summarized in the gray box here, is that in 2023 and now into 2024, more conservative consumers have embraced, you know, that activist tactic that was once, you know, kind of reserved of the left in terms of boycotts and doing that. And certainly we saw that happen with certain brands in 2023. But it points maybe even to a larger concern. And this was also identified in Gartner's research, that there's been an erosion among consumers in the view that businesses should even take a strong position as it relates to key issues in culture and society today, because the simple fact is that society now has become such a set of fragmented tribes, and no matter what position is taken, you're bound to annoy or aggravate a certain portion of things, because there is just no pleasing all people in today's environment. And with that, I think that's the last of our cultural trends.